welcome to Gary Dab Primary School. Here at Gary Dab, through a combined effort of students, staff, parents and the community, we are committed to providing a safe, secure and stimulating learning environment in which students can reach their full educational potential in a positive school culture that engages and supports them in their learning. Humanities education throughout Australia is the study of human behaviour and the connection between social interaction, cultural studies, environmental care and political standpoints. By allowing a range of different perspectives towards Australian and global issues, students will be more inclined to interact, question and problem solve contemporary issues. Through implementing a range of subjects throughout the Humanities Australian curriculum, such as the studies of history, geography, civics and citizenship, and economics and business, students will increase their ability to critically think, communicate efficiently, and make decisions that allow them to adapt to cultural change. By developing their understanding towards humanities education, students will also improve on their ability to interrelate aspects of their own learning to other subject strands such as English, science, mathematics, health, LOT, and ICT. Today, Mr. Hatfield will be speaking to you about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives. Mr. Elorza will be talking about how we, as a teaching team, will teach humanities at Gary Dab Primary School. Mr. Smith will be explaining the importance of an excursion to build a base understanding, and Mr. Bongiovanni will explain how we will assess and celebrate your child's work.
Throughout the Australian curriculum, there are three cross-curriculum priorities that are key to the development of the modern student and influential in a way that students understand Australia: Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders' histories and cultures, Asia and Australia's engagement with Asia, and sustainability. For teachers today, it is important to incorporate all three priorities. However, in particular, it is crucial for teachers to utilise an Indigenous perspective more extensively, as the Indigenous perspective focuses on the true history of Australia. It is important that modern students are informed of how we, as a country, have changed over time. In accordance with AITSL Standards 1.4 and 2.4, by understanding myself as a teacher and my own cultural background, we can better respect and acknowledge our future students' own cultural backgrounds and specifically incorporate Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander education into our classrooms effectively. To do this successfully, teachers, unless Indigenous themselves, cannot teach Indigenous culture to somebody who is not Indigenous. Rather, it is a teacher's job to acknowledge and celebrate the culture of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. During this Humanities unit, we want the students to follow and understand the Triple R principle: respect, reconciliation, and relationships. Respect what the white people have put the Aboriginals through, reconciling the past by attempting to build bridges and fix any past wrongdoings and move into the future, to create relationships with open communication so that everyone can correspond openly, ensuring that the past will never repeat itself again.
Pedagogy is the principle, practices and professions of teaching. Pedagogy relates to the function or work of a teacher, which is the art and science of teaching and educating students. Here at Gary Dab Primary School, we aim to incorporate a vast variety of different pedagogies when educating your children about humanities. Through being thorough and immeasurable with our pedagogy, we will cater for an assortment of different learners, personalities and diversities, with the aim of creating equality and fostering understanding, therefore appealing humanities to a greater audience. In relation to Kolb's experiential learning cycle, students will have a session of concrete experiences before they head to the Melbourne Museum. At this cultural landmark, students will be observing and reflecting on the real-life experiences of Aboriginal cultures. As students are learning through observation, they are forming abstract concepts based upon the content in which they are watching and reading, allowing us teachers to test the students' knowledge in the classroom regarding new situations and information in which they have discovered. When explaining the discovery learning theory, Jerome Bruner stated, "Problem solving occurs as learners draw on past experiences and prior knowledge to discover facts, relationships, and new truths." As teachers teaching humanities, we will be using the whole part whole theory by having a class discussion to find out what our students' prior experiences and what they already know regarding Aboriginal Australians. Students will then progress to their tables to complete the allocated work before coming back and sharing their new learnings. To foster learning in relation to the discovery learning theory, we as teachers will prompt your child with questions so that they reason and problem solve their ideas based upon their prior experiences to discover new learnings and truth. Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences caters for a differentiation in personalities involving all students of different social statuses, different abilities, understandings, and equalities. In humanities, we will use Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences to cater for 9 different learning styles: visual, verbal, oral, mathematical, bodily kinesthetic, intrapersonal, interpersonal, naturalistic, and existential. Visually, students will learn through watching movies, video clips, shows, and looking at images and diagrams. Verbally, students will learn through studying about humanities, watching video clips, reading books, and taking part in learning. Orally, students will learn from sounds and music. Mathematically, students will learn through reasoning and problem solving. Bodily kinesthetic will involve students learning through interaction in the environment of the classroom and learning around different concrete experiences. Intrapersonal, students will learn through feelings, values, and attitudes. Interpersonal, students will learn through interaction with others. Naturalistically, students will learn through the classification, categories, and hierarchies as they are able to pick up on differences. And existential, learners will learn by the big picture and the connections to real-world understandings.
Hi guys, as said before, I'm Mr. Smith and I'll be talking to you about the excursion. As an integral part about our unit on Aboriginal Studies, we require our students to attend an excursion on country to the Melbourne Museum, which gives the students a real live experience on Aboriginal culture before the westernised culture invaded our shores. This experience will expose the students to multiple forms of text, such as print, non-print, electronic constructed labels, film, performance, touchscreen, searchable data, audible information, and still images. This will allow all types of learners the opportunity to gain knowledge towards Aboriginal culture. For students who lack confidence in speaking and inquiry skills, Bongiovanni also offers the opportunity to develop these skills by speaking, listening, and interacting with multiple sources at the exhibition, as well as each other in a peer learning environment. One of the amazing bonuses of having such an asset towards learning in Victoria, the trained staff at the Bongiovanni exhibit have created workbooks related to the Victorian curriculum, which assist the students in gaining and engaging in all content at the museum to fulfill their workbook. This is a deterrent for the students that want to bludge and not get the most from their experience because they have a task to complete, which requires them to visit and view all aspects of the exhibit. Once we've returned to school, we will require the students to critically reflect and examine their experience at the museum. This experience helps the students build upon knowledge they have and speak to others in the class to share and relate common understandings and share viewpoints that they may not have understood or come across. Another advantage of getting students to be involved in the excursion creates a real-world understanding for Aboriginal lifestyles. This means the students can collect artefacts from their visit. These artefacts are to be collected by the students, which will help them conceptualise their Aboriginal culture by visualising some of the traditions and all the marks of their society. By creating different experiences for our students, this assists in building our students' understanding of the topic by interacting with several different strategies for teaching about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. By attending the exhibition and listening to the recordings from the Aboriginal elders speaking through video, it creates and assists in promoting reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. As a part of the Australian curriculum, we're also required to teach the students about the Australian history which involves and in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and their cultures. Doing this educates the next generation, which is these children about our past nation, to understand what has been sacrificed and, more importantly, so these tragedies that occurred we can learn from and it never happens again. By the end of Year 3 and 4, students identify individual events and aspects of the past that have been significant in the present. They identify and describe aspects of the community that have changed and remain the same. They describe the diverse characteristics of different places at the local scale and identify similarities and differences between the characteristics of these places. They identify connections between people and the characteristics of their places. Students explain the role of rules in their community and the importance of making decisions democratically. The importance of different celebrations and commemorations for different groups. They explain how and why people participate in and contribute to their communities. The framework above is part of the Victorian curriculum, which we need to address in this unit. The framework for developing students' knowledge, understanding and skills is provided by inquiry questions. The following inquiry questions allow for connections to be made across the substrands and may be used to adapt to suit local contexts. Inquiry questions are also provided for each substrand that may enable connections within the humanities and social sciences learning area or other learning areas in general. Thank you.
Here at Gary Dabb Primary School, we use different types of evaluation processes that include a variety of assessment as learning, assessment of learning, and assessment for learning models. Through these assessment models, we can assess our students prior to their learning, during their learning, and after their learning to identify what they already know, what they need to know, and how they have progressed throughout their learning. During these processes, we not only assess the students' progression and development, but also encourage them to critically assess and reflect on their own learning. Throughout all of our assessment approaches, we also take the time to ensure our students get the opportunity to share their work and their learning, so they can learn to celebrate their own and each other's academic achievements. One of our main assessment approaches is the students' Aboriginal Arts exhibition, where the students share the Aboriginal art they have planned and created. During this exhibition, the students get to learn more about the Aboriginal history and cultures, as well as getting the opportunity to share and celebrate their learning. Here at Gary Dabb Primary School, we also value how our students think and feel and will assess them on their abilities to communicate their opinions and thoughts within their work and classroom discussions. By using these assessment frameworks, we hope to encourage our students to look at the world from different perspectives to make educated decisions. We also hope to be successful in molding our students into critical thinkers and learners who can ultimately take responsibility for their own learning.